Welcome, and thanks for joining us. My guest today is Brigadier General Chad Radegui, the Director of Cyberspace and Information Dominance and Chief Information Officer at the headquarters of the Air Combat Command for the United States Air Force. Later, we'll be joined by Jay Bonsi. He's the Director of Government Custom Engineering at Akamai. And I'm your moderator, Scott Massioni. And first of all, General Radegui, I'd just like to ask you, what is Zero Trust and what is it not exactly?
Yeah, well, Scott and ladies and gentlemen, thanks for having me on board today to talk about what I think is a very important subject, and that important subject is zero trust. And so, Scott, you ask a very important question because it frames a lot of the conversations that I have across our Air Force today, which is what is this thing that we call zero trust? It's quite a buzzword right now. It's getting a lot of attention. So the way that we define zero trust is really an information security methodology for specifying trust to access the data and the applications that we have going on right now in our United States Air Force. It talks in terms of accessing only when it's explicitly earned and not implicitly granted. And so those are important terms because we're trying to put a methodology in place for the way that we access our data and make sure that it's a protected process. So this provides us the visibility and the control to secure, monitor, and manage every device, every user, every application that we're trying to access. So you asked the question about what is zero trust and what is it not. So here's what we say when we talk about zero trust. So this is the is. First of all, this is a series of innovations that have taken place. This is not a singular technology that is out there. It's a way that we have evolved our way of thinking and the way that we access data and manage our networks. It is a strategy built around a zero trust architecture that we believe in a couple of important key phrases. So one is that we value identity over the network location. So who are you versus what are you accessing from? That's an important concept. We think in terms of device compliance rather than just credentials. Credentials can be granted at a single time, but that device compliance is applying all the patches, all of the security environment to make sure that when we access that data, that it is real. And finally, we believe in terms of limited access based on a confidence level. So rather than granting full access to all of the information one time, we believe in a back and forth dialogue that ensures that you have the level of access that is required and that we are constantly assessing your device compliance and your identity. And that's what zero trust is all about. So what is zero trust not? Well, first of all, as I kind of noted before, it's not a single technology. This is not a magic out-of-the-box tool that you put just this one product in place and voila, you have zero trust. So it is not a single technology. It is taking the premise of we are moving beyond username and password and getting to a more deliberate manner where we have continuous identification and authentication of who you are and where you're coming from. So, Scott,
it does, and I wanted to ask about the user themselves. What might they see? I think a lot of us have seen zero trust in the terms of, you sign into your bank, they send you an extra PIN number that you have to put in, something like that. What do we really see on that end of things?
Yeah, what we anticipate our customers seeing is behind the scenes work. There may be some multi-factor authentication that will take place, some of the things that you're referencing, additional pins that take place. But the zero trust architecture and the zero trust strategy is really built on technology itself. It has a lot of automation, it has a lot of controls that are already in place that are simultaneously doing checks as you're trying to access the data. So it is technology that is really working behind the scenes. So what would a user see? Probably not much, because zero trust is the framework, the architecture, the strategy that is defining how you access it. And so a user is not necessarily going to have to do a whole bunch of different stuff. It's not going to be a huge step up for the user to try and figure out how to use Zero Trust. Zero Trust is built into the network.
Great. And, why is it important for an enterprise itself to decide to invest in this? And what does that investment take at this point? Is this a large money sort of thing, or is it really a change in mindset and framework?
There will certainly be some dollars associated with this, but this is more of a framework. This is more of a mindset shift. This is the strategy behind it. So as you think about why to invest in Zero Trust, I would offer three things that I see going on right now in our Department of Defense. First of all is the demand signal. The appetite from our warfighters is significant right now. They're wanting to acquire more data. They want to know that that data that they're accessing is accurate and is relevant and is timely to fulfill their battle-informed decision-making. Their command and control is all built on the need of speed of accessing that data. So that's one, is really the appetite. Second, I see a lot of stuff taking place right now where we are accessing more and more data, and we are building networks associated with it. We talk in terms of accessing cloud. We talk in terms of joint all-domain command and control, where you're going to have a network of networks that are all exchanging information back and forth. And so Zero Trust, and why it's important to invest in that, is that it provides some strategy to bring some order to the architecture that we have in place right now. Hundreds and thousands of networks all coming together. The framework that we call Zero Trust, the architecture that we call Zero Trust, ties all of that together to allow for information exchange. So that's point number two. Point number three is mobility. Right now, if you take a look at the vision of the future for not only our Department of the Air Force, but really our DoD, we start talking in terms of dynamic force employment, of adaptive combat operations, so an ACE environment, the ability to go forward and have connectivity to the edge. So that's one aspect of mobility. The second aspect of mobility that I would offer is exactly what we are going through right now, which is a COVID response where we're becoming heavy teleworkers. And so our workforce right now is more distributed than ever. The network attack surface is much larger than it was in a pre-COVID environment. And so as such, having that connectivity in a mobile environment drives the need to invest in Zero Trust technologies.
And why do Zero Trust now? As you said, there's it's a buzzword right now. Why bring it up now? Why start this adventure, this journey, when we've been using passwords for decades almost?
There is urgency now because the old methodology, the old security, the castle and moat approach to securing the perimeter of our network, it's easily accessible. Our adversaries have the ability to get into our networks. And so that's what this is all about. The old castle and moat approach that I refer to is a very focused security perimeter. And in the old days, if you can get through that security perimeter, it's like the soft underbelly of the network is on the inside. Zero Trust is about not only establishing a firm security perimeter, but then providing security locks along the way. Here's the best example that I have. Picture a big office building. If you have keys to the front door and you can get in that building, and then you can go to any single office space in that entire building and get in, that's what the current models kind of look like. In the future Zero Trust model, it's you must have a key to the front door, and then once you get inside, every door on the inside that has access to individual data repositories or applications or data feeds, all of those are behind lock and key as well. And so you must have the access with the key and the credentials to get into those rooms as well. So what I think is driving the need right now is that there is more adversary activity right now in cyberspace, and we are becoming a more reliant force on data and the exchange of data. And so those two power forces are coming together, which is what's driving why today.
Sure. So General, we talked about where Zero Trust is, what it is, why we need it now. Can you talk about what an individual asset owner might need to do, if you're an agency head, something like that, to begin their journey with Zero Trust, and also how ACC's journey began as well?
Yeah, so Scott, that's an excellent question, and I'll describe ACC's response because down at the individual level, I think that's a different way forward. So Scott, some of the things that we have done here at Air Combat Command to get after our Zero Trust environment, our architecture, and our strategy is built along a couple of lines of effort. So first of all, I will tell you that we built a coalition of the willing. I'll call it the coalition of the willing, but really it was to drive a unity of effort in our Department of the Air Force approach to Zero Trust. So some of the things that we looked at was, how do we get the policymakers from SAF-CN online with my organization, where we're responsible for organize, train, and equip of our United States Air Force from an enterprise IT perspective. And so Zero Trust falls in that portfolio. We also tied in the operators from 16th Air Force. So Lieutenant General Hawk and the team down in San Antonio, making sure that the operators that would actually be rolling out, monitoring, securing the Zero Trust environment, that they were brought in line as well. And then finally, we brought in our acquisition professionals from day one to make sure that we had unity of effort, that the acquisition professionals understood the requirement and understood where we were going. They could hear the policy discussions, they could hear the operator questions, and link all that stuff together. So coalition was the first thing that we went after. Second thing that we went after was actually defining our concept of operations. So that took place in the June timeframe, and we worked as an AF Cyber, so an Air Force cyber component to United States Cyber Command. We documented exactly what we were trying to do with our Zero Trust pilot effort. And so we wrote that as part of a concept of operations that was presented to Cyber Command. They gave us the thumbs up and said, let's go ahead and drive to the next step, which is stand up a pilot effort. And so that's the step that we're in right now is how do we assess our concept of operations and actually measure that with actual users. So we have users from the 38th Engineering Squadron at Tinker Air Force Base, along with members of the 552nd Air Control Wing, also at Tinker Air Force Base, participating in our pilot effort. So they're assessing what's going on right now. We're putting the Zero Trust architecture and strategy in place, and then we're bringing in red teams and offering pen test opportunities. We're bringing in DOT and E to actually run scenarios against our environment and our concept and see if it works. All of that's going on right now. Next step is making sure that we have our enterprise IT service portfolio kind of aligned to what we're doing. So as we start building the future budget requirements, we're making sure that everything is locked in at that point. So we're assessing the need for Zero Trust architecture and a strategy and laying that into our efforts. Finally, I will tell you that we're taking a look at the legacy network that we operate today, but all eyes are on the future network that we're trying to build. And so as new requirements come up, as we look to evolve our network or revolutionize our network to that future network, we're looking for all opportunities to invest in Zero Trust technologies. So one example right now is our Enterprise IT as a Service, our ITAS effort, where we're teaming with some of our commercial vendors to actually take over portions of our network and control it from there. And so Zero Trust is being built in to that environment as well.
My guests today are Brigadier General Chad Radke, the Director of Cyberspace and Information Dominance and Chief Information Officer at the Air Combat Command for the U.S. Air Force. I'm your moderator, Scott Massioni, on the discussion Zero Trust in Complex Cybersecurity Environments, sponsored by Akamai on Federal News Network.